12 dead foxes, strung up like hunting trophies on a barbed wire fence. The location? King Charles's own estate. The man who spent decades preaching about animal welfare, environmental protection, and living in harmony with nature. Now accused of the most shocking hypocrisy. But what happened on that cold winter morning goes deeper than anyone imagined. This isn't just about dead foxes. It's about power, tradition, and the lies we tell ourselves. January 2024. A dog walker takes her usual morning route along the public footpath that borders Sandringham Estate in Norfolk. It's a walk she's taken hundreds of times. But this morning, something is different. In the distance, she sees what looks like dark shapes hanging from a fence. As she gets closer, her blood runs cold. 12 foxes, dead, strung up by their necks along the barbed wire fence. Their bodies swaying slightly in the winter wind. A grotesque display that looked, in her words, like a medieval warning. What she did next would ignite a firestorm that reached all the way to the throne. She took photos. Within hours, those images were everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The headlines wrote themselves. King's hunting scandal. Charles's blood sport shame. Environmental hypocrite. Foxes killed on royal land. Animal rights activists were outraged. Environmental groups demanded answers. And the public? They wanted to know how the king who cried for polar bears could allow this carnage on his own property. But here's where the story gets complicated. Because nothing about this situation is what it seems. To understand why this scandal cuts so deep, you need to understand who Charles is claimed to be. Visual. Charles speaking at climate conferences, planting trees, meeting with environmental leaders. For over 50 years, Prince Charles, now King Charles, has positioned himself as Britain's environmental conscience. He was talking about climate change in the 1970s, when most people had never heard the term. He converted his estates to organic farming. He championed sustainable agriculture. He created wildlife habitats. He publicly opposed fox hunting when it was still legal. In 2005, when the UK banned fox hunting with dogs, Charles was notably quiet, but sources say he privately supported the ban. He called blood sports barbaric and indefensible. So how did 12 dead foxes end up displayed on his land like war trophies? The answer is darker than you think. Welcome to the hidden world of estate game management, a world where tradition, money, and blood run deep. Royal estates like Sandringham aren't just homes. They're massive commercial operations. Sandringham hosts pheasant shoots that bring in hundreds of thousands of pounds each year. Wealthy clients pay premium prices to shoot birds that have been specially bred and released. And to protect those valuable pheasants, gamekeepers wage war on predators. Foxes, stoats, weasels, anything that might eat the birds before paying customers can shoot them. It's legal, it's widespread, and it's been happening on royal estates for generations. But there's a crucial detail the public didn't know. Stringing up dead predators isn't random cruelty. It's a tradition as old as gamekeeping itself. Gamekeepers call it the gibbet, or the game larder display. The bodies are hung to show landowners and employers exactly what's been killed. It's proof of work, a record. Some gamekeepers even see it as a deterrent to other predators. For centuries, this was just how things were done. But in 2024, in the age of social media and animal rights activism, on the estate of an environmental king, the timing couldn't have been worse. And what the palace did next made everything so much worse. When the photos went viral, the palace had a choice. Acknowledge it, apologize, and explain. Or, do what they've done for centuries. Stay silent. They chose silence. For 48 hours, as the scandal exploded across every news outlet in the world, Buckingham Palace said absolutely nothing. Then, finally, a statement. But not from the king. Not even from the palace. From the Sandringham Estate Office. Predator control is a standard part of game management. All activities are legal and conducted by professional gamekeepers in accordance with regulations. No apology. No acknowledgement of the optics. No mention of Charles's environmental credentials. It was as if they didn't understand why people were angry. But they understood perfectly, and that's what made it worse. The internet did what the internet does best. It receipts. Video after video emerged of Charles speaking about compassion for animals, the sanctity of nature, the importance of protecting wildlife. We must learn to live in harmony with nature, he'd said just months earlier at a climate summit. The same nature his gamekeepers were systematically destroying to protect birds bred only to be shot by wealthy hunters. Animal rights groups called it staggering hypocrisy. One activist put it bluntly, he'll cry for a melting glacier but string up foxes on his fence. What does that tell you about what he really values? The pressure mounted. The silence became deafening. And then, someone inside the palace broke ranks. According to a source who spoke to multiple news outlets under condition of anonymity, King Charles was horrified when he saw the photos. The source claimed Charles had no idea the practice was still happening on his estates, that he'd specifically requested more humane pest control methods years ago, that the gamekeepers had ignored his wishes. But here's the problem with that story. It raises an even more damning question. If the King of England doesn't even know what's happening on his own land, what kind of king is he? Here's what most people don't want to hear. This isn't really about Charles. It's about all of us. We love the idea of environmental kings and sustainable living. We buy organic food and share posts about climate change. But we don't want to know about the blood underneath. Every organic farm in Britain kills predators to protect crops and livestock. Every nature reserve manages wildlife populations. Even the most ethical food systems require death. The difference? Those operations don't have cameras on them. They don't have a king's face attached to them. Charles's real crime wasn't hypocrisy. It was believing he could participate in a traditional rural economy while marketing himself as an environmental saint. He wanted to have it both ways. But the public's response revealed something even more interesting about what we really expect from our leaders. Something unexpected happened as the story developed. The public split into two camps. One side, outraged urbanites who saw only cruelty and hypocrisy. For them, this confirmed everything they suspected about royalty. Out of touch, cruel, living by different rules. The other side, rural communities who understood that pest control is part of land management. For them, this was city people imposing their values on countryside realities they don't understand. The debate revealed a massive cultural divide in Britain. Urban versus rural. Idealism versus pragmatism. The life we want to live versus the life we actually live. And Charles? He was trapped right in the middle. Too rural for the environmentalists. Too green for the traditional hunters. 3 weeks after the scandal broke, Sandringham Estate announced new guidelines. No more displaying dead animals. Pest control would continue. It had to, but it would be done discreetly. Bodies would be disposed of properly, not strung up for public view. This scandal is about more than foxes. It's about the impossible position of the modern monarchy. Charles wants to be a modern, environmentally conscious king. But he's also the inheritor of massive estates built on centuries of blood sports, hunting traditions, and aristocratic privilege. He wants to champion organic farming while running profitable shooting operations. He wants to protect wildlife while managing it. He wants to be progressive while preserving tradition. The truth is, you can't do both. Not perfectly. Not without criticism. Not without blood on your hands, literal or metaphorical. We mock Charles for his hypocrisy. But look in the mirror. We buy smartphones made with conflict minerals while posting about human rights. We order next-day delivery while worrying about carbon emissions. We eat factory-farmed chicken while condemning hunting. Charles's mistake wasn't being a hypocrite. It was being a hypocrite in public, with cameras watching, with receipts that could be pulled. He's not a villain. He's just a very visible example of the contradictions we all live with. Today, King Charles continues his environmental advocacy. The dead foxes are gone from the fences. The shoots continue. The contradiction remains. Sandringham still manages its land the way estates have for generations. They're just more careful about what the public sees. And Charles? He still speaks about climate change, sustainability, and protecting nature. Because despite everything, he does care. He's just learned that caring isn't enough. Sometimes the right thing and the necessary thing are in conflict. Sometimes you can't have a perfect answer. Sometimes all you can do is choose which hypocrisy you can live with. But the Fox scandal might be just the beginning. Because there's another tradition happening on royal estates. One that's even more controversial. One that involves the royals directly.